everyone, my name is Nicole Wolf and I'm a paranormal romance author. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing another writing tag. I haven't done one in a while and I thought it was time for another one. So I've decided to do one that I saw on Kim Chance and Megan LaCroix's YouTube channels. And I think Kim Chance is the one that actually originally created it. I will link her video below, and it is called the Fearless Writer Tag. I believe they created it back in January at the beginning of the year. So I'm a little behind. I'm a little late in the game, but I read through the questions and it seemed like a good one. So let's jump right into it. Okay, question 1 is lies. What is the biggest fallacy you're telling yourself with writing or being a writer? Fallacies. I would say it would be that I'm not a real author until I'm making enough money to pay the bills. So until my books are bringing in enough money to actually support me and my family, then I can't call myself a real author. And I mean, I know that's ridiculous, but sometimes that's how people make me feel. That's how people around me make me feel, is that you're not really a writer or an author until you've got the money and the income to prove it. Which, I mean, I know that's a lie, because you don't have to be making a dime from your writing to call yourself a writer. So maybe that's more of the author thing that I'm dealing with. Okay, number 2 is starting new. Does the first draft scare or motivate you? For me, it motivates me, because drafting is one of my favorite parts, outlining and drafting. So I find it very motivating to be able to get my vision of a story down on paper, because I can't share it with people, and that's anybody, that's friends, family, critique partners, beta readers, potential customers. I can't share it with anybody until I write it, so that is super motivating. Okay, number 3 is roadblock. What's your number 1 obstacle stopping you from writing? Anybody who watches my channel knows that I'm a stay-at-home mom and I have a lot of responsibilities, so just finding time to write is an obstacle. But not only that, that's like the first obstacle. And the next obstacle is then making sure that when I finally do find time to write, that I'm using the time wisely. Okay, so number 4 is reflect. How can you overcome the obstacle? And the best answer I can really come up with is for finding time to write. That was the first part. What would be just to make a schedule. Like, go through my schedule, like what I do, what I need to accomplish in a day, or everything I want to accomplish in a day, or all of my responsibilities in a day, and then see where there's chunks of time that I can slip writing in. Now for me, that usually happens in the afternoon when my son is sleeping, or in the evening after my husband comes home from work, and then I can have him watch the kids while I go to write. And then the second part of overcome the obstacle, which is how to use that time that I found wisely, meaning being able to write as much as possible during my writing time. I think that just comes down to, for me, outlining my scenes more thoroughly. So maybe certain scenes I know kind of flow more easily than others. So the ones that I know are like slower scenes, not quite as exciting scenes, like connector scenes in between the like big flashy scenes. Those are usually the ones that the words come a lot slower. So I think those are the ones that I kind of need to outline more thoroughly and kind of know step by step what's happening in that scene before I sit down to write it. Okay, number 5 is perfection. How can you challenge yourself to get past the perfectionism/procrastination trap? So for the perfectionism, I try not to reread, although I do tend to kind of reread a few paragraphs that I wrote the day before just to get myself back into the scene and back into the voice and rhythm, because I usually have 2 different point of views, so because I'm swapping back and forth, I kind of need to make sure that I'm refamiliarizing myself with that character's voice when I start writing again. But I don't allow myself to do any research while I'm drafting. So, I know some people, like, they'll be writing and then they'll like get an idea for some like really cool thing that goes with the story or to another part of the story or whatever, and then they'll stop and they'll go research it. I won't let myself do that. I will make a note for myself to go do that later, but I won't allow myself to do that in the moment. Same goes for like words. I know I used to, if I couldn't think of a word, or I like wrote a word but I knew I could think of a better word, or I could come up with a better word, then I'd go research it, like, you know, in thesaurus.com or whatever, you know, like, you know, it's not she ran fast. That's what I wrote in my first draft, but I know I could come up with a better word, like she sprinted. I won't do that. I don't think in those terms when I'm drafting for the first time. It's pretty much just she ran fast or something really basic, and I tend to repeat words constantly because those are my, like, the words that I naturally gravitate towards, that naturally come to my mind, and so that's what I write down. I don't try and change words out while I'm drafting. I just write whatever words come to my mind as I'm writing the scene, and I'll worry about better word choice in a later draft. And then the procrastination trap. Honestly, I mean, I try to set myself goals, but I don't always meet my goals, like my writing goals. Like lately, my writing goal has been at least 1,000 words a day or 5,000 words a week. I usually go by the week. I usually try and hit 5,000 words a week because I'm not a person that can always write every day, or sometimes I don't hit 1,000 words a day. So I set my goal at 5,000 words a week, but sometimes I don't hit it. And a lot of times that's just because on the weekends, when my family is home, my daughter's home from school, my husband's home from work, I find it harder for me to work because I want to spend time with them. So I really just, the procrastination thing, I'm trying to come up with a solid and stable writing schedule, and right now that is mostly writing during the week, trying to get most of my writing done Monday through Friday so that I have the weekend to spend with my family and I don't have to feel bad about it. Okay, the next one is failure sucks. How can you grow from a failure? Okay, if we're talking about like failure to finish something, like finish a book, I think before you really call it a failure or you completely give up on it, you kind of need to ask yourself why you gave up on it. Because if you gave up on it because you lost interest, or you got to like the slow part that many books contain, you know, not every scene is going to be go, go, go all the times. Like, that's just exhausting for the writer and the reader. So, if you completely lost interest, then a lot of times you just need to kind of ask yourself why. And, like, what went wrong in the story that made you lose interest. And if you can't come up with a resolution, if you can't fix whatever the problem was that made you lose interest, then I guess you failed to finish something, but you learned something about what you need to work on when it comes to your storytelling and your outlining, like how you're coming up with a story for the next book that you write. So if you get to the, you know, inciting incident, and that's when you start to lose steam. You start to lose steam right after the inciting incident is over. Then a lot of times I think the next time you go to work on your next story that you're coming up with, then I think it means you're going to have to take a deeper look at what's happening after your inciting incident before you start drafting. So, because it's easier for you to pick out what the problem is before you start drafting and put all that time into it than while you're drafting, and then you don't understand why the story isn't working because you never planned out what was happening after those first couple initial scenes that was like the spark of your idea. So that's how I think you can kind of grow and learn from failing to finish a project. Okay, the next one is rejection sucks too. How can you grow and learn from rejection? The first thing you need to accept, if you're going to become a writer that actually shares your work, is that not everyone is going to love your work. There is absolutely no way that you can please everyone. So the first thing you need to do is sort out whose rejections are just because they don't like the type of story that you're writing, and whose rejection is honestly just because there was something lacking in your story. It has nothing to do with your personal writing style or the genre that you're writing in, or things like that. Because if eventually you're going to come across readers that pick up your book and they probably shouldn't have, because it wasn't really their cup of tea. And then they're going to reject your work because it wasn't actually what they were looking for. Now, how you can grow and learn from rejection is once you know that that person that is rejecting you actually is a fan of your type of story, then it really just comes down to figuring out why they didn't like it. Because if they're a fan of your type of story, like, okay, for me, it's if they're a fan of dystopian vampire romance, which is the niche that I write in at the moment. Well, it's one of the niches, dystopian vampire romance or dystopian paranormal romance. So if somebody who is a fan of that niche picks up my book and doesn't like it, then I need to really see why they didn't like it, because they should have liked it. It's their type of story. And that means they should like it overall. I mean, now there are going to be little things that some people might not like, but the majority of the story they should like. It's the kind of story that they're typically into. So then you need to see, was there a problem with, were there plot holes? Was there a problem with my character? Was my character not likable, or was my character too likable? Was the pacing too slow? Was there not enough background that they were getting lost in the story? So those are all things that you can kind of learn from someone who rejected you, especially if it's actually constructive criticism and it's not just, this book sucked. Okay, so the next question is, create action. How do you keep moving towards your goals? I kind of just take it one chunk at a time. So if my goal is to write a book, the only way to write a book is to write it one scene at a time. So I try not to overwhelm myself with not breaking goals down into more manageable steps. Because when you think about writing a book, that's a big goal, and it's going to seem overwhelming very quickly if you don't just concentrate on taking it one step at a time. So, I mean, it's going to look different for everybody. Like, I need to outline at least a little bit, so I kind of take it one step of the process at a time. So if I want to write a book, then I know I have it where I need to get my outline done, and I set myself a deadline for just the outline alone. Like, not even thinking about the drafting or the editing or the anything else. Just the outline. When do I want the outline done? And then, kind of give yourself little deadlines throughout the whole process. And then as you're drafting, because drafting an entire book is a lot, so then it's taking it, one scene at a time or one paragraph at a time. Writing a book is a marathon. It's not a sprint. At least for most of us, it's not. I do know some people that can really fly through a draft. And I'm wondering if that just means I spend more time in editing. I don't know. But for me, I can't just fly through it. Like, I need to just kind of concentrate on just the scene I'm working on, because if I start thinking about everything as a whole, or if I start thinking too deeply about things that are missing or things that need to be kind of thought out more or expanded upon or whatever, then I'm going to completely lose momentum, and I'm going to stop and spend forever going back to my outline constantly. I will constantly be going back to my outline, and then I will never get the draft done. And I need to remember, that's part of the perfectionism thing. You need to remember that a first draft is just that. It is a first draft. So, how do I keep moving towards my goals? I set myself little deadlines all along the way, and I check them off as I complete them. And that's really the best you could do. So yeah. All right. And then the next question is, new year, new outlook. If fear wasn't holding you back, what would you be doing right now to further your writing dreams? fear isn't really holding me back. I'm not afraid of writing books. I'm not afraid of letting other people read my books. Honestly, that's never been a fear of mine. I enjoy feedback, and that includes constructive criticism. So that's something that's never really held me back. Fear has never really held me back. Now, time has held me back. And lack of knowledge has held me back, but not fear. Right now it's like money. That's a whole other thing, because as an indie author, it takes money to make a dent on Amazon. It just does. And if you don't have a whole lot to devote to it, then it's going to be a very hard, long uphill battle. So yeah, it's not really a fear, it's just not having enough resources sometimes. Okay, and the last question. I feel like every time I do a tag, it runs forever. I don't know how people can do a tag in like 9 minutes. I don't even know. Anyway, the last one is leap of faith. What is one thing you plan to do this year, even though it scares you? Okay, so I'm not. It wasn't a fear thing. Okay, maybe it was afraid of not meeting my deadlines. But I am working towards my deadlines. I'm just afraid I'm not going to make my deadlines. So that's why I was like, I don't really know how to answer number 9. But anyway, so the one, I already did it actually this year. I have already done it. And that was, I'm always afraid that I'm not going to meet my deadlines. And I made a goal for myself that I wanted to draft this book in 3 months and publish it by April. My leap of faith has already occurred because I have already put this book up on pre-order, and I am not done writing it yet. In fact, I'm only about a quarter of the way through writing it, and I already put it up on pre-order, which basically means my butt better have something to put there, and it better be a good something. So there is my leap of faith for the year. Yay me. Okay guys, so that is all the questions for today. Anybody who is interested in more videos like this, more tags, I know tags are very popular. So if this is a video that you enjoy, these writing tag videos, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and click that subscribe button and the little bell so you will know when another one of these lovely writing tag videos goes up on my channel. Okay guys, I will see you next time. Bye!